The cards lay face up on the green baize, and Gresham Carrington did not bother to count them. He knew what they said. He had been winning all night, and at the Ivory Rook, a man who won too steadily was considered either lucky or in need of punishment. Viscount Peveril had decided it was the second. "You are in a foul humor tonight, Hawthorne." "I am in a reasonable humor," Gresham said, "for a man who was disinherited yesterday afternoon." Peveril laughed, too loud. Fitzroy did not. Fitzroy had been sober for the last hour, which was a poor sign. Fitzroy only sobered when he intended to be clever. "Tell us," Fitzroy said, leaning across the table. "Did His Grace your father actually use the word disinherited, or was it another of his elegant phrasings?" "He said I would find the door of Marchwood closed to me in the morning if I did not present myself at the Braithwaite drawing-room by noon and declare myself publicly. He said my mother would be informed that I had chosen a stranger over my family. He said I had one night to reconsider my cowardice. And here I am." Peveril clapped him on the shoulder. "A toast, then, to cowardice." "I am not a coward." Gresham lifted his glass. "I merely have a low opinion of Lady Philippa Braithwaite." "Everyone does," Fitzroy murmured. "That is not generally considered a reason to refuse £100,000. It is a reason if you have watched her strike a housemaid for spilling tea." The table went quiet for the length of a breath. Then Peveril laughed again, because Peveril laughed at everything. "Well," he said, "since we are done pretending this evening has direction, I propose a wager." "I have wagered enough." "You have wagered nothing that mattered. Here is one that will." Gresham raised his brow, which was answer enough. "The Wilbury Ball begins within the hour," Peveril said. "Every unmarried lady in London will be there, parading for a husband. I propose the following. You attend. You find the lady least noticed, the dimmest candle in the room, the woman the ton has written off entirely, and you offer for her. Before midnight, a proposal, not a dance, a real offer, in the hearing of witnesses, and you marry her within the week by special license. That is not a wager. That is a cruelty." "It is a wager," Peveril said softly, "because your father will disown you properly for it, and you will be free of him at last. And if you refuse, I will know you never meant a word of your fine speech about Lady Philippa." Gresham went still. Fitzroy said very quietly, "Peveril, do not." "The stakes," Peveril continued, "my black mare against your father's chestnut. You have wanted her for 3 years, and if you decline, I will tell every man at this table that the heir to Hawthorne talks a great deal about principle and delivers a great deal of nothing." Gresham looked at his cards without seeing them. 3 kings. A winning hand, if he had cared to play it. He stood. "By midnight," he said. "By midnight. And you will hold your tongue afterwards, Peveril. Whatever I do in that ballroom, no man in this room will ever call it a dare to the lady herself. Is that understood?" Peveril's smile faltered a fraction. "Is that understood?" "Understood. Fitzroy." "I did not lay the wager, Hawthorne. I will not carry it." "Good." He left his winnings on the table and walked out into the cold. The Wilbury carriage line stretched down half the length of the street. Gresham did not wait for his. He walked, and the air did what it had been unable to do for 3 weeks. It cleared his head. He knew exactly whom he would find in the ballroom. He had known for 3 years. He had known, and he had not acted. He had passed her brother in the street twice and declined both invitations to call. He had seen her across 2 rooms at the house in Kent, and he had turned away the second time, because turning away the first time had not been enough. He had been, for 3 years, a man who had chosen correctly between the thing he wanted and the thing he had been raised to want, and he had discovered on the pavement outside the Ivory Rook an hour ago, that choosing correctly had not been the same as living. Sybil Marchmont stood beside the third pillar from the left, which was her usual pillar, and watched London dance without her. She had stopped counting the seasons. It was her 5th. 5 years of being told her dress was a fine color for a woman of her complexion. 5 years of being asked which of her younger cousins had come out this year. 5 years of her mother pretending not to notice that the dance card on her wrist was empty. Tonight, she had told herself she would not mind. Her father was dying. Her sister Hester was 16 and would be turned out of Marchmont Hall the moment Sir Everard closed his eyes, because the entail went to a second cousin in Yorkshire who was waiting, not unkindly, for the inevitable. Sybil had stopped caring about dance cards the week her father began coughing blood. Her brother Ormond stood beside her, stiff as a window frame. "Will you go home?" he murmured. "Or will you dance with Lord Dinwiddie when he asks, which he will, out of pity?" "I will go home, Ormond, because I have begun to suspect that Lord Dinwiddie only asks because his wife insists. He is a widower. Then he asks because his daughters insist." Ormond almost smiled. He did not quite. He was 3 years her senior, and had been practicing not smiling since he was 19. "Stay until supper," he said. "Mother will cry if we leave first, and Father will hear about it by post in the morning, and it will make his cough worse." "Very well." She looked across the room because looking was cheaper than dancing, and her eye caught on a man who had just stepped through the far doors. Everyone else's eye caught too. It happened in a wave, a ripple of heads turning, of fans lifting, of whispered names. Gresham Carrington, the Duke of Hawthorne, had not attended a public ball in 3 seasons. Hawthorne did not attend balls. Hawthorne attended Parliament and his clubs, and nothing in between. Hawthorne was here. He was not looking at the dancers. He was not looking at the dowagers. He was looking, with the quiet deliberation of a man who had made a decision in the street, directly at her. "Ormond," she said, "do not look now, but I believe the Duke of Hawthorne has just entered the room. I have eyes, and I can see he is walking towards us. Sybil, smile at no one. Do not accept any invitation until I have spoken with him first. Ormond, he is not going to ask me to dance. He is going to ask you the way to the cloakroom." Hawthorne crossed the ballroom as if the ballroom were not there. Women turned. Men turned. Lady Wilbury herself half rose from her chair. He did not see any of them. He stopped 3 paces from Sybil. He bowed. "Miss Marchmont." She dropped the shallowest curtsy of her life, because her knees had forgotten the rest. "Your Grace." "I wonder," he said, "if I might have this dance." Ormond made a sound like a cough. "A dance," Sybil repeated, "if you will. I have not been properly introduced to you, Your Grace. I am aware. We were introduced in a manner of speaking 3 summers ago at Lady Kent's house party, though you would not remember. You were reading in the orangery. I was told by my host it was unsociable of you, and I made the mistake of agreeing with him at the time. I have regretted that agreement ever since." The ballroom had gone quiet in their immediate vicinity, without quite knowing why. "I remember the orangery," Sybil said slowly. "I was reading Marcus Aurelius. You were reading the part about how one must expect men to be unjust, and forgive them anyway. I was. I thought it was an interesting choice for a girl of 20. I thought it was a useful one for a girl of 20 at a house party." Something moved in his face. It was not a smile. It was the ghost of one. "Dance with me, Miss Marchmont." She looked at Ormond. Ormond's mouth was a line. His eyes said, "I do not understand what is happening." Her eyes said, "Neither do I." She put her hand on the Duke's arm. He did not speak during the first half of the dance. She was grateful for it, because she needed her breath for counting steps. When he spoke at last, his voice was low enough that only she could hear it. "Miss Marchmont, I am going to say something to you that you will not like, and you must hear me to the end before you answer. Will you?" "I'm already dancing with you, Your Grace. I can hardly refuse you 3 sentences. I need you to marry me, within the week, by special license." She missed the step. He caught her without effort, as though he had been prepared for it. They turned back into the figure, as if nothing had happened. She felt her face burn, and she did not understand why her face was burning, because she was certain she had misheard him. "Your Grace, I am aware how this sounds. I give you my word, it is not a joke, and you will not be harmed by it. I am offering a marriage of name. You will have Hawthorne House, you will have an allowance, and you will have protection from whatever circumstance makes your brother stand beside you at balls, like a man watching over a sister in a storm. I will ask nothing of you that you do not give. I will explain the rest once we are safely away from this room. But I must have your answer before the 4th dance is called. You cannot ask this. I am asking it. Your Grace, I do not know you. I know. I am sorry for that." She looked up at him. He was not smiling. He was not leering. He was not looking at her as though she were a sacrificial figure arranged for his amusement. He was looking at her, she realized with a small, cold shock, as though he were holding his breath. She thought of her father in his chair. She thought of her sister Hester. She thought of the 2nd cousin in Yorkshire who had written last week with a letter of great kindness and little meaning. She thought, "I have been waiting for something to happen for 5 years, and if this is what has arrived, I cannot afford to refuse it. Your Grace, yes, I will marry you." He closed his eyes for the length of one breath. When he opened them, she saw, clearly and without mistaking it, that his hand on her waist was trembling. "Thank you," he said. "Do not thank me yet. I will thank you when you ask me to stop." The next 3 days passed in a blur Sybil did not trust. Her mother wept, as though she were going to the scaffold. Her father rose from his chair for the first time in a month to bless her, which frightened her more than the marriage. Ormond said nothing, except on the morning of the wedding. "If he harms you, write to me. I will come and kill him." The ceremony was at St. Martin's Chapel at 8 in the morning, with 4 witnesses. His Grace, the old Duke of Hawthorne, did not attend. The new Duke's mother did. She was a tall, tired woman named Augusta, who kissed Sybil on the forehead without a word, and Sybil thought afterwards that she had never been kissed by a stranger with such weight of meaning. It was done by 9:30. By 11 she was a duchess. Hawthorne House received her with extraordinary efficiency. Her trunks were unpacked by hands she did not see. Her new dressing room held 12 pairs of gloves already chosen for her size. A housekeeper named Mrs. Heaton curtsied and called her "Your Grace," and Sybil's spine stiffened each time because she kept waiting to be corrected. Gresham Carrington, who was now her husband, showed her the west wing. He bowed at the door of her bedchamber. He told her supper would be at 9, should she wish to take it in company, or brought to her rooms at whichever hour she preferred. He said, "I hope you will be comfortable here, Your Grace." She said, "Please do not call me that in private." He said, "What would you have me call you?" She said, "Sybil." He said, "Sybil, then." And he left her. She did not sleep. She sat by the window until the first gray of morning touched the rooftops of the square, and then she rose and dressed herself, because she was not yet equal to being dressed by strangers. The house was quiet. She walked because she did not know what else to do. She found the library by accident, and stayed because it was the first room she had entered since the ceremony that smelled like a place someone had lived in. She ran her fingers along the shelves. She took down a volume of Marcus Aurelius and opened it to a page that had been read often. The spine cracked where she expected it to crack. A folded note fell out. She caught it before it reached the floor. She did not read it. She put it back. Voices carried in the corridor outside. 2 women's voices, the low conspiratorial pitch of housemaids who believed the house still asleep. Well, they say Peveril laid the wager, and it was in writing. Hawthorne had until midnight. Fitzroy was the witness. And she does not know. How could she know? 3 days to the altar. She thought she was chosen. She was chosen. That does not make it not a wager. Poor thing. To be the Duke of Hawthorne's mistake and not to know it. Hush. I'm only saying. Hush. The voices moved away down the corridor. Sybil stood very still with her hand on the Marcus Aurelius. She was not aware that she had stopped breathing until her chest began to ache. She set the book back on the shelf with great care, because if she did not do it carefully, she thought, she might throw it. She walked to the breakfast room because a duchess did not run. Gresham sat at the far end of the table. He rose when she entered, as a gentleman did. He was perfectly dressed. He had not slept either. She could see it in the skin under his eyes. "Good morning, Sybil." "Is it true?" He went very still. "Is what true?" "That Viscount Peveril laid a wager on which woman you would marry, that you had until midnight, that you found me because a friend of yours thought I was the most invisible candle in the room." He did not answer. "Gresham." "Yes," he said quietly. "It is true." He did not deny it. He did not flinch away from it. He gave her the truth plainly, because he had evidently decided that plainness was the only remaining currency between them. "Sit down," he said. "Please." "I prefer to stand." "Then I will sit." He did. "I will not ask you to listen to me. I will only ask you to let me tell you, so that if you choose to leave this house this afternoon, you will leave knowing. Viscount Peveril proposed the wager. I accepted it. The stakes were a mare and a point of pride. I accepted because I had, the day before, been told I would be disinherited unless I married Lady Philippa Braithwaite, and I could not do it. I had a great deal of wine in me. I had almost no judgment. Those are my excuses. They are not excuses at all. But you found me. I found you. You knew where I would be standing." He did not look away from her. "Yes. You knew I would accept. I did not know. I hoped." She put her hand on the back of the chair to keep it from trembling where he could see. "Gresham." "Yes." "If you had not been dared, would you have come?" He was silent for a long moment. It was the longest silence she had ever sat through. "I do not know," he said at last. "That is not an answer that will console you, and I will not pretend otherwise. I have wanted to come for 3 years. I did not come. The dare was the reason I found the door. That is the truth, and I cannot make it prettier. The truth is that I am your mistake. No." His voice sharpened for the first time. "You are not that. I am my own mistake. You are, as of yesterday morning, the only decent thing I have done in 18 months, and I will spend however many years you permit me making certain you never regret the price of it." "I do regret it." "I know." She walked out of the room. She did not leave the house. She did not know where she would go. Her family had celebrated her wedding as a deliverance, and she could not return to Marchmont Hall with the word "mistake" ringing in her ears and tell her dying father that she had been a joke. She walked the upper gallery instead. She found the Dowager Duchess at the far window, sitting on a low bench with a book open in her lap and reading spectacles pushed down her nose. The Dowager looked up as Sybil approached. She did not rise. "Come and sit," she said, "if you can bear company. I'm not good company this morning. You are a new duchess in a strange house, whose husband is currently, I would guess, sitting in the breakfast room, wondering whether he has just ruined 2 lives. You are not expected to be good company. Sybil sat. For a while neither of them spoke. The dowager closed her book. Gresham is not his father, she said. I will not tell you he is a good man, because he would not let me, and you would not believe me. But he is not his father. That is the thing you should know, if you are deciding whether to stay. You did not object to the marriage. I sat in a church for his brother's funeral 5 summers ago. I have no objections left in me, Your Grace. My son may marry a baronet's daughter on 3 days' license if he wishes. He may marry an actress. He may marry the horse. I should only like him to become a man who does not sleep in his study with the door locked. And if you are what has brought him out of that study, I cannot bring myself to object to you. He has slept in his study for 18 months, since the old Duke told him what he intended concerning Lady Philippa. Sybil looked at the window. She could not quite put together the man at the breakfast table with the man who slept in a study with the door locked. I do not know what you require of me, she said at last. Nothing. I have been a duchess long enough to know that no duchess ever required anything of a dowager that the dowager was not grateful to give. You will be a better one than I was, in any case. I was quiet. I should have been louder. You will be louder. I am not certain of that. You have been loud already this morning. You have simply been loud in silence. There is a ball at Lady Wilbury's this evening, the dowager said. Your first as Duchess of Hawthorne. I will go with you, if you wish it. Must I go? If you do not, it will be said that you were hidden. If you do, it will be said that you were flaunted. There is no choice that will please the tongue. You will have to learn to please yourself instead. She went because the alternative was staying, and the thought of staying in rooms that still smelled of strangers was intolerable. The dowager rode with her in the carriage. Gresham rode opposite, in a coat cut so fine it made her suddenly, absurdly conscious of her own. You will be looked at, the dowager said. Do not look back. Look at the chandeliers. Thank you. You will be spoken about. Do not listen. Listen to my son. Lady Wilbury's receiving line stopped when they reached it, because a receiving line cannot move when every head in it has turned. Sybil climbed the stairs on Gresham's arm. Lady Wilbury herself pressed both her hands. My dear Duchess. Lady Wilbury. How radiant you look. What a lovely surprise. How very sudden. How very romantic. Thank you. The ballroom she had stood in 3 evenings before, beside her 3rd pillar, was now a different room. It had different lighting. It had different air. It had her in it, and every head in it bent a degree in her direction. Gresham led her into a waltz without asking. He said, under the music, breathe. She breathed. They are going to come for you all evening. I will not leave your side unless you tell me to. Do not leave. I will not. The waltz ended. A voice she had not heard in 5 seasons said her name at her shoulder. Miss Marchmont, forgive me. Your Grace. Of course. Your Grace. She turned. Ambrose Holloway stood a pace behind her, with his hand over his heart, in a gesture of charming self-reproach, and his eyes on her face with an attention she had never, in any ball of any season, seen him direct at her before. Mr. Holloway, she said, I hope you will forgive my forwardness. I could not let the evening pass without offering my congratulations and my regret. Your regret. That I left it so long to notice what was directly in front of me. Gresham's hand at her back did not move. It did not have to. She felt it tighten by the breadth of a thread, and she understood that he had known Ambrose Holloway would come to her, and he had known what Ambrose Holloway would say. I thank you, she said, for the congratulations. Ambrose Holloway smiled, and the smile was warmer than it had any right to be, and she remembered, unwillingly, that she had once cried at 19 because Ambrose Holloway had danced with her cousin and not with her. He was at her elbow at supper, unavoidably so, because he had contrived to be seated 2 chairs down. He was at her elbow in the conservatory when she excused herself to breathe. He was at her elbow when she turned from the lemon tree, and he had shut the door without her noticing. Your Grace. Mr. Holloway, I was about to return to the ballroom. I know. I will not keep you. I only wanted to say, because I will not have another chance to say it privately, that if your present circumstance is not what it seems, if you have been taken advantage of in any way, my family has known yours all my life, and I would consider it an honor to assist you. Assist me. Discreetly. Completely. She looked at him. He was handsome. He had always been handsome. He was 32, and he wore his hair the way he had worn it at 19, and it struck her suddenly that he had been handsome the same way for 5 seasons without once being interesting. Mr. Holloway, may I ask you a question? Anything. When precisely did you first find me fascinating? He did not answer at once. I have always. Ah. Because for 5 seasons, I was under the impression you had not seen me at all. And now, 3 days after I have become the Duchess of Hawthorne, you have, with great courtesy, shut a door behind us. Your Grace. My father is dying, Mr. Holloway. Did you know that? I had heard. I am very sorry. He is dying, and when he dies, our estate is entailed away. My sister and my mother will have what I can give them, and nothing besides. Tell me, does that seem to you an improvement on my previous station, or a decline? Your Grace, I am not interested in your station. You are interested in my coronet. That is unfair. It is very fair. It is the fairest thing I have said to a man this evening. She reached for the door handle. Your Grace, he said quietly, I am offering you a friend. That is all. A friend. If His Grace, your husband, proves to be what I begin to fear he is, you will need one. The word stopped her hand on the handle. What do you fear he is? A man who does not want you. The word is already in certain rooms. That His Grace was dared. That a viscount laid a wager. That His Grace means to have the marriage annulled as soon as an heir is secured, and Lady Philippa Braithwaite has been rather publicly forgiving on the subject. She opened the door herself because her hands could still obey her. Mr. Holloway, I should prefer no friend at all to one who begins a friendship with gossip. Good evening. She walked out of the conservatory and did not stop walking until she was at Gresham's side at the far end of the ballroom, and when she took his arm, she took it harder than a wife was supposed to take her husband's arm, and he, to his credit, did not ask her why until they were in the carriage on the way home. Who approached you in the conservatory? Mr. Ambrose Holloway. What did he want? He offered to be my friend. Gresham's hand on the carriage window went white at the knuckles. Did he? He said a great many things, but that was the substance. Sybil. Do not ask me to recite it, Gresham. Not tonight. I will tell you tomorrow if you still wish to hear. Did he frighten you? No. Did he insult you? Only by noticing me. He was silent for the rest of the ride. She had thought she would hate the silence. She did not. The silence was a man who had known before she spoke that Ambrose Holloway would come to her, and who was, even now, not saying I told you so, and not touching her, and not doing any of the things a man might do to turn her hurt into his advantage. He was only sitting opposite her, waiting for her to ask for what she needed. At the door of Hawthorne House, she asked for it. Gresham, do not go to your study tonight. Sybil, do not. I know that you have been sleeping there for 18 months. Your mother told me. I do not know what I am asking. I am not asking for that. I am only asking you not to go to the study. Sit with me. Anywhere with a door that does not lock. I would rather fight with you until morning than sit alone with the word mistake in my head for another hour. He looked at her for a long moment. I will sit with you, he said. They climbed the front steps together. He put his hand under her elbow without thinking about it. In the entry hall, the butler was bowing them in when a footman stepped forward with a silver salver, and on the salver was a letter, and the letter had been sealed with the crest she had learned in the last 3 days to recognize on sight. His Grace your father, sir. By Ryder. Half an hour ago. He waits for an answer. Gresham took the letter. He did not open it in the hall. He put it into the inside pocket of his coat as though it were hot. Tell the Ryder I will send word in the morning. Yes, your Grace. Sybil watched his face. She could already read, in the set of his jaw, that the letter had not been a surprise. Gresham, what does it say? I do not need to open it to know. Tell me. He looked at her, and his eyes were very tired, and very dark, and very honest. It says I have one more night to return to Lady Philippa, and that if I do not, by dawn, I will no longer be his son. She took him to the library because it was the only room in the house she had decided in the last 3 hours that she was willing to claim as her own. The fire was lit. A decanter stood on the side table. She did not touch the decanter. She sat on the long sofa, and when he did not sit beside her, she said, without looking up, "Please." He sat. He did not sit close. He did not touch her. He sat at the far end of the sofa with the letter still in his coat and his hands on his knees, and she thought that a man could sit in a room with his wife, 3 days married, and still look like a guest. Tell me, she said. Sybil, tell me the whole of it, Gresham. If you tell me now, and it is true, I will not ask again. If you lie, or if you leave part of it out, I will know, and I will leave this house in the morning, and you will not find me. Very well. He was silent for a moment. Then he began. My elder brother was Silas. He was 4 years my senior. He was to be the Duke. He died at Waterloo. You will not have read his name in the papers, because there were many names, but he was among them. My father has not forgiven him. He has not forgiven me either, for being the one left behind, though he would not say it that way. He would say he is disappointed. I'm sorry. Do not be sorry for me. Be sorry for my mother. I was 24 when Silas died. I had never prepared to be a duke. I had prepared to be a younger son, which is to say, I had prepared for no particular life at all. Did you love him? I loved him very much. We had been at school together, he 4 years ahead of me, and we had never once been without each other. He was the brother who spoke, and I was the brother who watched him speak, and I had supposed, until he died, that there was nothing wrong with the arrangement. Afterwards, I found that I did not know how to speak without him. It took a corridor in your family's house to remind me that I had a voice. By then, I had forgotten what to do with it. She reached across the sofa and took his hand. She did not plan to. Her hand did it, before her mind did. He looked down at their hands as though she had set a bird in his palm. When did you first see me? She asked, because it was easier than the next thing she wanted to ask. Properly, the orangery. Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius. You had taken off one slipper. You were not aware of it. You had pushed your spectacles up into your hair, and you had a smudge of ink on your wrist where you had been making notes in the margin. I did not know you had seen me at all. That was the idea. I stood in the doorway for nearly a quarter of an hour. I did not speak to you. I have regretted it since. Why did you not speak? Because my brother had been dead 3 years. Because I was to be married within the year to a woman my father had chosen. And I did not know then that the betrothal would be broken, and I was trying very hard not to want anything I could not have. You were something I could not have. But you came to the ball. I came because Peveril dared me to come, and I hated him for doing it. And I was grateful for it at the same time. Because it was the reason I let myself come. Because without the dare, I would have stayed in the study with the door locked. The way I have stayed in the study with the door locked since the day my father informed me I was to marry Lady Philippa. Gresham, I know how it sounds. It sounds like a man who needed his hand forced to cross a room. It sounds like a coward. No, it sounds like a man who was afraid. He was quiet for a long time. She did not take her hand out of his. He did not let it go. Lady Philippa, he said at last, is not merely cruel. She is clever. She has known from the beginning of our acquaintance that I did not want her, and she has made a game of it. And my father has watched her do it, and approved of her for it. She would have made me afraid, Sybil. In time. She nearly did. And now I have the letter in my coat. By dawn, it says. By dawn, I must present myself at Braithwaite House, on my knees if necessary, or my father will disinherit me properly. He has said so before. He means it this time. I believe him. What will you lose? Marchwood, the country seat, the estates that carry income. The title he cannot take. The title is the king's to take, not his. But everything that pays for the title he can strip from me, and he will. And me. He will not touch you. I will see to that. Whatever I am stripped of, I have my mother's portion and a rent roll in Dorset that he cannot reach. You will not be reduced to penury, I swear it. I did not ask for penury. I asked whether he would touch me. He will try. He will send word to every hostess in London that you are a nobody whom he does not acknowledge. He will encourage Lady Philippa to be visibly forgiving in public. He will encourage Mr. Holloway and men like him to be visibly attentive to you. He will do everything that can be done to make it appear that our marriage is a mistake, so that in a year, when the annulment papers are drawn, no one will blink. Annulment. It is what he will propose, yes. Is it what you will propose? He looked at her. No. The word was quiet. She had been listening for it the whole of the speech. Gresham, why did you accept the dare? I have told you. You have told me 3 reasons. Peveril and the wine, and my father's threat. That is true, but it is not the whole. Tell me the whole. He did not speak at once. When he did, his voice was so low that she had to lean towards him to catch it. Because I was terrified that I would go to Braithwaite House in the morning and do as he asked. Because the only thing that would stop me was an act I could not undo. Because if I married you by midnight, I would have done a thing that could not be reversed, and I would not have to trust myself with the dawn. Her breath went out of her. You married me to save yourself. I married you, he said, because I had spent 3 years wanting to, and I found, when the moment came, that I was more afraid of living another month without having done it than I was of anything my father could take from me. The dare was the door. You were the reason I walked through it. She did not answer at once. She could not. There was a thing happening in her chest that she had not felt for a long time, and she was afraid that if she spoke too quickly, she would misname it. Gresham. Yes, I have a condition. Name it. If I am to be your wife in the proper way, and I will be, I want that to be a thing we decide together, and not a thing the dawn decides for us. I do not want to be the act you made to save yourself from your father. I want to be the one you chose after the dawn had come. He was still for the space of a long breath. Then, slowly, he took her other hand. Tell me what you want. I want to wait until morning. I want to read that letter together. and I want to watch you burn it. And I want to know that when the sun comes up, you have chosen me with your eyes open, and not with a Viscount's wager in your pocket. Sybil, is that a condition you can meet? It is the only one I will accept. He took the letter out of his coat. He did not open it. He passed it to her. Read it if you wish. I would rather you did not. I will not read it. Burn it now. The dawn is hours away. I would like the dawn to find us past this already. He rose. He crossed to the fireplace. He held the letter above the flame for the length of a slow breath. And then he dropped it. And the seal caught. And the paper curled black. And the light of it moved on his face. He stood there until it was gone. Then he came back to her, and he knelt on the carpet at her feet, which she had not expected, and which undid her, and he put his forehead against her knee. Sybil, he said. Yes. I do not know how to do this. I know. I do not know how to be what you require. Then we will learn it slowly. She put her hand on the back of his head. His hair was thicker than she had thought. He made a small sound that she would remember for the rest of her life. Gresham. Yes. Come up here. He came up. The fire had sunk to coals by the time they rose from the sofa, and she led him by the hand out of the library and up the stairs, past the portraits of men who had never imagined her, and she did not look at any of them. She did not need to. She was looking at him. What happened in the Duchess's bedchamber was not a matter of the wager, or the dare, or the letter, or the whisper of servants, or Ambrose Holloway's shut conservatory door, or Lady Philippa's forgiving smiles. What happened in the Duchess's bedchamber was a man who had slept in a locked study for 18 months, finding that the lock was not on the study door after all. The lock had been on him, and she had put her hand through it, gently, as one puts a hand through water, and the water had let her through. She did not think of the word mistake once. Afterwards, she lay in the crook of his arm, and his hand moved slowly in her hair, and she thought she had never been so tired. It was the tiredness of a long walk home. It was not unhappiness. Sybil. Yes. Whatever the morning brings, I will not go to Braithwaite House. I know. He will do what he said he would do. I know. You will be spoken of cruelly. I will not be able to prevent all of it. I know, Gresham. And you will not leave. Is that a question or a request? Both. She turned her head on his shoulder so that she could see his face. I will not leave. He let out a breath that sounded like it had been in him for 3 years. Tell me, she said. What have you not told me yet? Peveril. Peveril is a friend of Mr. Holloway. I did not tell you before because I did not want you to think I believed in conspiracies. They were at school together. Peveril's debts, which are considerable, are privately held by Mr. Holloway's father. I have known this for 2 years. I know only that Peveril's wager was unusually specific. He named the Wilbury ball 3 weeks in advance, before Lady Wilbury had even sent out her cards. I did not think of it at the time. You believe Mr. Holloway knew you would be dared. I believe Mr. Holloway knew a duchess was about to enter the market. I believe he wished to be on hand when she did. Gresham. I know. I should have told you before you went into that conservatory. You are telling me now. She was silent for a while, her cheek against his shoulder, listening to the fire that was no longer there, and the house that was, and to a new thought that she did not entirely trust herself to speak aloud. Gresham. Yes. If Mr. Holloway arranged to be in that conservatory tonight, he will arrange to be elsewhere tomorrow and the day after, until I give him what he wants. Yes. Then we will have to give him something else first. What are you thinking? I am thinking that your father expects you at Braithwaite House in the morning, and Mr. Holloway expects me to be alone at every ball for the next month, and Viscount Peveril expects to have a mare by midweek. I am thinking that all three of them have expectations, and I have not met one of them." He lifted his head a little to see her face. "What are you proposing, Your Grace?" "I am proposing that tomorrow you do not go to your father. You go with me, on my arm, to Lady Wilbury's drawing room at 11, because she will be at home to callers, and every woman who matters in London will be there. I am proposing that we do not hide. I am proposing that we arrive before any letter can be sent. I am proposing that by the time the Tun drinks its tea tomorrow, there is no mistake left to whisper about." He looked at her for a long moment. She felt him laugh once, very softly, against her hair. "By dawn, then. By dawn. That is a dangerous hour, Sybil. It is our hour, Gresham." She woke to the smell of coffee, not chocolate, which was the first sign that this morning was to be different from the last three. Gresham was already dressed. He stood by the window in the west bedchamber in a fresh coat, reading a folded sheet. He was reading with the concentration of a man reading an order of battle. "Good morning," she said. He looked up. His face, in the gray morning light, was not the face of a man who had been loved the night before. It was the face of a man who had been up for several hours and had read several things and had come to several conclusions. "Sybil, what does it say?" He crossed the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "You are in the broadsheets, 3 of them. It is not as bad as I had feared, and it is not as good as I had hoped. The word wager has been used by none of them. The word hasty has been used by all of them. I would rather you did not read them." "I will read them." "I thought you might." He handed her the folded sheet. She read. Her father's name was there, described as a gentleman of failing health in the county of Somerset. Her mother was described as a lady of discretion. Hester wasn't named, which was the only mercy. The word Duchess appeared only with some effort, as though the printer had said it reluctantly. "It is survivable," she said. "It is the first morning. There will be more." He took her hand. He did not kiss it. He held it as though he were confirming a weight. "Lady Wilbury is at home at 11. We go together." "Yes." "And Sybil." "Yes." "Whatever happens in that drawing room, do not answer for me. I will answer. If I do not, you may speak. But let me answer first. It is my ground, not yours. Promise me." "I promise." He rose. "An hour. Then the carriage." She dressed in ivory because the Dowager had chosen it the day before. Mrs. Heaton's hands were steady on the buttons, and her silence was a kind of kindness. Sybil looked at herself in the long glass and did not recognize the woman who looked back. The carriage stopped in front of Lady Wilbury's house. Today the front door was opened before Gresham had climbed down. The butler bowed lower than strictly necessary. The silence of the hall was not the silence of an empty house. It was the silence of a hall full of people who had stopped speaking because the door had opened. They climbed the stairs. They entered the first of the 2 drawing rooms. Every head turned. Lady Wilbury rose at once. That was the thing Sybil would remember afterwards. Not the heads turning, but Lady Wilbury rising. Because a hostess did not rise for a caller. A hostess stayed seated and received. Lady Wilbury rose and crossed the room and took both of Sybil's hands. "My dear Duchess, forgive me for not calling yesterday. I had meant to, and I am ashamed. And I hope you will sit with me. You are kind, Lady Wilbury. I am late." She led Sybil to the sofa by the window and sat beside her, and did not let go of her hand. It was, Sybil realized, a public gesture. Lady Wilbury was telling the room what Lady Wilbury thought. Half the room, Sybil saw, was relieved to have been told. Half was not. A woman Sybil did not know approached the sofa. She was older, and her jewels were modest, and her eyes were kind. "Your Grace, if I may. I am Mrs. Argyle. I knew your grandmother. She was a formidable woman, and I have been looking forward to meeting her granddaughter." "You are kind to say so." "I am not kind. I am an old woman who likes to say what she means. Welcome, Duchess." She moved away. Another woman took her place. Then another. And Sybil understood, slowly, that a certain half of the room had decided, and a certain half had not, and the decisive halves were watching each other. Lady Philippa Braithwaite was at the far end of the room, against the mantelpiece, with a cup of tea held at the exact angle of a lady who was listening, but not paying attention. She had not come forward. She had merely allowed herself to be seen. Sybil understood, watching her from the sofa, that every choice Lady Philippa had ever made in her life had been made at the angle of that teacup. Her clothes had been chosen at the angle of a teacup. Her smile had been chosen at the angle of a teacup. She was a woman whose entire self had been arranged on a surface for public consideration, and she was in the process of arranging her next sentence the same way. Then she moved. She crossed the room with the kind of grace that was taught at 8 years old and polished at 18, and she stopped in front of the sofa, and she smiled. "Your Grace, how delightful. I had not thought to see you in company so soon. You must be exhausted." "I am very well, Lady Philippa. Thank you for asking." "And His Grace." Her eyes moved to Gresham. "How very well you both look." "Lady Philippa, a true match cannot be forced, and a true heart cannot be prevented, however unconventional the path. My congratulations to both of you. Sincerely." She held out her hand. Sybil did not take it. The room went, by degrees, very quiet. "Lady Philippa, I thank you for the courtesy. I am certain your feelings are everything you say they are. I should not dream of imposing on them further." Lady Philippa's smile did not falter. Her eyes did. Gresham stepped beside the sofa. "Lady Philippa, your Grace, it is kind of you to come forward. My wife has thanked you with more courtesy than I would have managed. I will add only this. My marriage is not unconventional. It is not irregular. It was not hasty. It was the most considered decision of my life. Any suggestion otherwise, wherever it originates, will meet with my displeasure. I trust I have been understood." "Perfectly, Your Grace." She turned. She crossed the room. She did not reach the mantelpiece before 2 women had turned their backs to her, quite visibly, and then quite visibly had turned them back, and the room was itself again, except that it was not. Lady Wilbury pressed Sybil's hand. "Well done," she murmured. "It was not me." "It was more than you realize." They left before half the callers had arrived. On the steps of Wilbury House, as Gresham turned to hand her in, a man in sober black crossed the pavement toward him. "Your Grace." "I know who you are, Mr. Crail. I have a letter from His Grace, your father, and one from his solicitor. You are requested to receive me at Hawthorne House this afternoon. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Sybil looked at Gresham as the carriage moved off. "Who is Crail?" "The solicitor who has served my family for 30 years. He was a friend of my brother's. He is not a friend of mine." Crail was at Hawthorne House at 3, in the second drawing room, with his hat in his hand. He laid 3 documents on the table. The first was a formal notice of disinheritance, signed and sealed, effective on the stroke of midnight. The second was a petition for annulment on grounds of misrepresentation and undue influence, to be lodged before the week was out. The third was a letter, sealed, addressed in a hand neither Sybil nor Gresham recognized. "The letter," Crail said, "came into His Grace's possession this morning. He instructs me to place it before you without comment." Gresham broke the seal. He read it. He handed it to Sybil without speaking. The letter was addressed to my dear Ambrose. It was undated. It was written in a hand, very close to Sybil's, though not, if one looked carefully, quite. It spoke of an evening at a house party at Richmond in the spring, of a walk in the gardens, of a promise, of a regret. It was signed with her initials. Sybil read it. She did not flinch. "This is not my hand. I am aware, Your Grace. I have never been at Richmond in the spring. I am aware of that also. I am not the author of this instrument. I am its messenger. Mr. Crail." "Yes, Your Grace." "Who is?" Crail looked for the first time at Gresham. "If I were to speak, I should have to cease being your father's solicitor within the hour. I am, as I have said, not a friend of yours." "Then consider yourself dismissed," Gresham said quietly. "As of this moment. Now tell me." Crail's hands moved, very slightly, against each other. "Viscount Peveril's man called upon Lady Philippa's household the day before yesterday. I do not know what was said. I know what was written, because I was asked to witness the copy. The original is in Lord Braithwaite's possession. Thank you, Mr. Crail." Crail took up his hat and left. Gresham put the letter down on the table. His hand was steady. His face was not. "Sybil, I heard everything he said. You must go to the country. Tomorrow. To Marchmont Hall or to my mother's house in Dorset, whichever you prefer. You cannot be in London for what comes next. You have just told a solicitor that we are married. You have just told Lady Philippa in a drawing room that ours was a considered decision. You have just thrown your solicitor into the street for me, and now you would send me to the country. I cannot protect you and fight this at the same time. You are not required to protect me. Sybil, no. You do not understand what he is capable of. He does not merely cut, he annihilates. Then he will, and I will be here. Not in Dorset. I am asking you. You are ordering me. I am asking you. You are asking me to leave the field the moment the battle starts, so that you may lose it alone. I did not marry you to be protected. I married you because it was the first thing anyone asked of me in 5 years that required me to act rather than to wait. Sybil, do you believe the letter? No, not one word. Then why send me away? He opened his mouth. He closed it. Because I cannot bear it. Then you have chosen the wrong Duchess. I will not bear being unable to bear it either. Go to your meeting. I will be here when you return. He went. She stood in the drawing room with the forged letter in her hand, and she understood that she was on her own, and that, on her own, she had work to do. She pulled the bell. She asked for her cloak. She asked for the carriage. The butler, who was accustomed to asking no questions of a duchess, asked none. Where shall I tell the coachman, Your Grace? She folded the letter and put it into her reticule. Braithwaite House. Braithwaite House was a house that announced itself. The stone was pale. The columns were too many. The footman who opened the door did so with the unrushed deliberation of a man who was accustomed to turning callers away, and did not yet know he would not be turning this one. Her Grace the Duchess of Hawthorne for Lady Philippa. The footman's face did a very small thing. He recovered. If Your Grace will wait in the morning room, I will inquire whether Lady Philippa is at home. Please tell her that I will not wait more than 5 minutes. Sybil waited 3. Lady Philippa received her in a small sitting room at the back of the house, with a view of a garden that was too orderly. She did not rise from her chair. Your Grace, to what do I owe this? I have come to show you something. Please do sit. I prefer to stand. Sybil produced the letter from her reticule. She laid it on the small table beside Lady Philippa's chair, face up, open. She did not speak. She let Lady Philippa see it. Lady Philippa's hand, reaching for her tea, paused on the way. What is this, Your Grace? It is a letter. It is not in my hand. It is very close. It will not survive any close comparison. The author has made 2 mistakes which I noticed at once, and which a clerk of the ecclesiastical court will notice also. Lady Philippa set the teacup down. Your Grace, I have no idea what you are showing me. You have every idea. I will save us both the performance. I do not care whether you wrote this letter. I do not care whether your father wrote this letter. I do not care whether Viscount Peveril wrote it for a fee. I care only that you know, before the proceeding opens, that it will fail. It will fail because I was not at Richmond in the spring, and there are 7 people, including a physician and a rector, who will swear it. It will fail because the hand is close, but not mine, and a handwriting master from Oxford has already been engaged by my husband's new solicitor. It will fail because Mr. Ambrose Holloway will not swear to anything he is asked to swear to, because I have, in the last hour, sent a letter of my own to his father, reminding Mr. Holloway's father that the debts he holds of Viscount Peveril are not legally enforceable if the source of the debt is proven to be a fraudulent wager. Lady Philippa's face had, during the course of this speech, become very still. Your Grace, I am not finished. I have come here alone, which I should not have done. My husband will be furious when he learns of it. I have come because I will not spend the next 8 weeks being spoken about at tea tables by women who learned the story from you. If your father wishes to pursue the annulment, he will do so against a wife who is already called at the house that filed it. That is the visit you will remember, not the ballroom, not the drawing room. This one. Is this a threat? It is an introduction. I do not understand you. You do. You have not met me before. You have only met the woman your father described to you. You are meeting me now. When you next consider an instrument against my husband or myself, I should like you to consider it with an accurate picture of the woman who will respond to it. Lady Philippa looked at her for a very long moment. Something shifted in her face. It was not defeat. Lady Philippa did not know how to be defeated. It was closer to interest. You are not what he said you were. No, I am sorry to hear it. I am not sorry to say it. Good afternoon, Lady Philippa. Your Grace. Yes, the letter will not be produced. I know. How did you know? Because you do not wish to be the woman who produced it. You wish to be the woman who stood at a mantelpiece while someone else produced it. I have just taken that possibility away from you. She took up the letter. She put it back in her reticule. She went to the door. Duchess, she turned. Lady Philippa had risen at last. I should like to have tea with you one day, when this is over, if you could bring yourself to receive me. I could not. I thought not. Good afternoon, Your Grace. She had been on her way out of Braithwaite House when the carriage drew up at the bottom of the steps at a pace that was not dignified. The door was already open. Gresham was out of it before the coachman had fully stopped the horses. He saw her on the steps. He stopped. His face went through relief first, and through fury second, and through something she had not seen on his face before. It was the face of a man who had, during a ride across half the city, rehearsed 3 speeches and abandoned all 3. Sybil, I'm perfectly well. How long were you inside? 11 minutes. Did she receive you? She did. Did she threaten you? She offered me tea. He looked at her. A smile, very faint, touched his mouth. Get into the carriage. She got in. He got in after her. He rapped the roof. The carriage moved. For a long moment he did not speak. He sat with his hands on his knees and his head bent forward. And after perhaps half a street, he began to laugh, quietly, as though laughter were a thing he had to remember how to do. Gresham. I am not laughing at you. I am laughing because I have just ridden half the length of London in a state of absolute horror, convinced that I should arrive to find my wife being publicly humiliated on the pavement. And I have arrived instead to find that my wife has just threatened Lady Philippa Braithwaite in her own morning room, and that my wife has just told me that my wife was offered tea. I declined the tea. Of course you did. He lifted his head. He took her hand. He kissed it. He did not let go. I've been a fool. You have been afraid. Yes, there is a difference. I have been afraid for 5 years. I know the difference. He looked at her as though she had said something he was going to keep. Sybil, I owe you an account, a longer one than I gave you in the library. I did not tell you the whole. I am listening. At home. He did not take her to the library. He took her, instead, to the small sitting room off the entry hall that she had not yet entered, because its door had been closed every morning, and she had assumed it belonged to someone else. It did not. It belonged to him. It was where he kept his brother. There were 3 portraits on the wall. The largest was Silas at 20, in a coat that was blue enough to be foolish. The second was Silas at 12, with a dog. The third was a sketch, unfinished, of a young man who was not Silas. It was Gresham, done by the same hand, in the same summer. This is where I have slept. Your mother said a study. It is my study. It is also this room. He sat on the couch. She sat beside him. I told you in the library, he said, that I first saw you in the orangery. I was not lying. I was telling you the last true thing, and not the first. Tell me the first. You will not remember it. Your brother's 21st birthday, 6 months after Waterloo. You were 18. I remember the dinner. Ormond had invited me because he did not know how to speak to me about Silas, and a dinner was a thing that could be got through without speaking. I did not wish to come. I came because if I did not come, I should have sat at Marchwood with my father. You came to the table in a green dress. You gave a toast. I did not give a toast. Women did not give toasts at my brother's dinners. You were not meant to. You gave one anyway. You said, I believe, that Ormond was the best brother in England, and the most tiresome, and that your mother would have liked you to say nothing of the second part, but it was his birthday, and you should like to be honest for once. There was a silence. Your mother said your name. You sat down. Ormond went red. Your father lifted his glass and said, to her. To her. He lifted his glass to you, Sybil. He drank. The table understood that the toast had been accepted. I did not see you again that night. You left the table half an hour later. You passed me in the corridor on your way upstairs. You did not know who I was. You said, forgive my brother. He is not as stupid as he sounds. You walked past me. You went upstairs. I do not remember that. No, you would not. I had not spoken to a woman for 6 months. I had not laughed. I had not slept a full night. You looked up at me in that corridor for perhaps 2 seconds, and you did not see a duke or a second son or a brother of a dead man. You saw a person you had passed, and you were absent-mindedly kind to him, and you went upstairs. It was the first time since Silas died that anyone had been absent-mindedly kind to me. You saved my life that night, and you did not know. There was a candle in the corridor that had been guttering when I came down. I had meant to put it out because the draft from the stairs would catch it. I stood with my hand on that candle while you walked past me, and when you had gone, I put it out, and I went back to the dinner. And I did not say to anyone that I had just passed your brother's sister in the corridor. I did not say it for 3 years. Gresham. 3 years later, I stood in an orangery and watched you read, and I understood who you were. I had known your voice for 3 years by then. I had not placed it. I placed it that afternoon. I have loved you since." She could not speak. Her eyes were full. Her throat was closed. "So," he said, "when I tell you I married you on a dare, it is true. When I tell you I have loved you for 3 years, it is also true. When I tell you that I have been, in some sense, your husband, since my brother died, that is also true. And you are the only person in the world to whom I am willing to say it. I am saying it to you now because you rode alone to Braithwaite House this afternoon, and because it is not fair to let you do that again without knowing what you have been carrying for me." She put her face against his shoulder, and she wept, which she had not done in the library, and which she had not done at Lady Philippa's. And she wept quietly for a long time. And he put his hand on the back of her neck and did not speak. After a while he said, "We have not slept." "No, not yet." They sat in the small room with Silas watching them from 3 walls, and she thought that the marriage at St. Martin's had been a paper marriage, and the night in the library had been an understanding. And this was the marriage, here, now, in a room she had not been permitted to enter. The invitation was delivered by hand at 7 in the evening. Lady Wilbury's ball, the final and largest of her season, was to be the following Thursday. The card was engraved. The Dowager Duchess of Hawthorne was named. His Grace the Duke of Hawthorne was named. Her Grace the Duchess of Hawthorne was named first. It was, the Dowager said, the fastest correction of a social error that she had ever seen Lady Wilbury perform in 40 years of acquaintance. She is telling the season that she has taken a position. She will not change it between now and Thursday. She is telling your father, Gresham, that if he appears at her ball, he will appear at a ball at which his son is the most honored guest. That is the message. He will, of course, appear. He will. Ambrose Holloway will also appear. He will not, if he has any sense, appear within my reach. He has no sense, and he will be paid to appear, and he will be instructed to appear. Gresham, the Dowager said, your father is not bringing a letter to the ball. I have that from my cousin, who had it from her maid, who had it from the kitchen. Your father is bringing a witness. Sybil looked up from her chair. Who? I cannot tell, my dear. Only that he is bringing a person, and the person will speak, and the speaking will be the end of it. Let him bring whomever he will bring. We will bring ourselves, and my mother, and the Marchmonts. My wife has handled Lady Philippa this afternoon in her own morning room, and I have some confidence about the rest. Thursday was 3 days away. Sybil wrote to Ormond. Ormond wrote back. Sir Everard, against all medical advice, traveled by slow carriage and arrived at Hawthorne House on the Wednesday evening, supported on one side by his son and on the other by his wife, looking at Sybil with the face of a man who had done a thing that would cost him and did not regret it. You are a duchess, my girl. Papa, I came to see it with my own eyes. She did not cry that evening. She sat with her father until midnight, and he told her a story about a horse he had bought when she was 4, which she had not heard in 15 years, and which was, she understood, his way of telling her that he loved her, and was proud of her, and would not see Thursday. On Thursday evening they climbed into 3 carriages. They arrived at Lady Wilbury's at 10 o'clock. The ballroom was full. It held more people than the Wilbury ballroom had ever held. The corridor outside the ballroom was also full. The stairs were full. London, it seemed, had decided to attend. They were announced. His Grace the Duke of Hawthorne. Her Grace the Duchess of Hawthorne. Her Grace the Dowager Duchess of Hawthorne. Sir Everard Marchmont. Lady Marchmont. Miss Hester Marchmont. Mr. Ormond Marchmont. The room went silent. At the far end of the ballroom, under the enormous chandelier, the old Duke of Hawthorne stood with Viscount Peveril on his right, and Lord Braithwaite on his left, and Lady Philippa at a careful distance, and Ambrose Holloway 3 paces behind. The old Duke lifted his head. He raised one hand. The room waited. "My son," he said, and his voice carried, which it was meant to, "has been persuaded by grief and by drink to contract a marriage that will not stand. I have, this week, obtained a sworn statement from a gentleman of this city that will render it annullable. Mr. Holloway, if you will step forward." Ambrose Holloway stepped forward. He was pale. He held a folded paper in his hand. The room turned, as one piece, and looked at Sybil. Sybil did not look at Gresham. She did not look at the Dowager. She did not look at her father, who was seated on a chair that Lady Wilbury had herself brought forward to the front of the crowd. She looked at Ambrose Holloway. He had aged a week in the last 3 days. His collar was not quite straight. His hand, holding the paper, was not entirely steady. She walked forward into the silent space. She did not curtsy to the old Duke. A duchess did not curtsy to anyone below the rank of queen. The old Duke's eye flickered when she did not. "Mr. Holloway, Your Grace, you have in your hand a sworn statement. Is that correct?" "It is, Your Grace." "The statement asserts that you and I had an illicit acquaintance prior to my marriage. Is that correct?" He did not answer. "Mr. Holloway." "Your Grace, I would prefer." "Answer the question." He looked at the old Duke. The old Duke did not look back. "The statement asserts, Your Grace." "Asserts what?" "An acquaintance at Richmond, Your Grace, in the spring." "Tell me the date." The statement gives a date. "Tell it to the room." He swallowed. "The 18th of April, Your Grace." She turned for the first time away from him. She looked at her father. "Papa, where was I on the 18th of April?" Her father did not hesitate. His voice, when he spoke, was thinner than it had been at 19, and stronger than it had been that afternoon. "You were at Marchmont Hall, my dear. You were reading to me from a book of sermons, which I didn't enjoy, and which you insisted on finishing. You had been at Marchmont Hall for 11 days. You would be at Marchmont Hall for 7 more. I had been ill. I had sent for you. Dr. Walton had attended me on the 16th and on the 19th. He lodges at Crewkerne. He will confirm it. The housekeeper will confirm it. The rector will confirm it. The kitchen will confirm it. The 18th of April is the day, if you will forgive an old man's detail, that your sister spilt the sugar and cried for an hour. Hester went a dark shade of pink. She did not contradict him. "Thank you, Papa." Sybil turned back to the ballroom. "Mr. Holloway, do you wish to revise the date? You may. I will furnish you with 7 more. I have not been at Richmond in the spring at any point in my life. My father's household, and my brother's, and my mother's, will confirm each of the 7. Would you like another date, or shall we withdraw the statement entirely?" He did not speak. A murmur moved through the ballroom, soft at first, and then less so. Ambrose Holloway did not look up from the folded paper in his hand. A woman in the 3rd row audibly laughed, and another woman hushed her, and the laughter stayed inside the ballroom anyway. Viscount Peveril, who had been smiling the easy smile he used at card tables, stopped smiling. "Your Grace, how much did you pay Mr. Holloway for his statement?" "Your Grace, I am not required to." "You are not required. You are invited. A gentleman would answer. My husband will, of course, take other measures if you do not." Lord Braithwaite, "Your Grace, you signed the instrument that was brought to my husband's house yesterday afternoon as a witness. Is that correct?" "Your Grace, it was a matter of yes or no." "I signed." Then you have witnessed a fraud, Lord Braithwaite, which makes you an accessory to one. I will leave it to my husband's solicitor to decide what to do with that information, but I should not wish, if I were you, to sleep particularly well tonight." She turned, finally, to the old Duke. Gresham had been silent during the whole of this. He had not moved. He had stood exactly 3 paces behind her. He stepped forward now. "Father." The old Duke did not answer. "I am going to speak to this room, and I shall speak quickly, and then I shall take my wife home. I was dared into this marriage. The dare was specific and cruel, and I accepted it. I should not have accepted it. I accepted it because I had been asked, the day before, to marry a woman I could not bring myself to marry. And I accepted it because the dare offered me a door I had not had the courage to find for myself. And I accepted it because I had spent 3 years wanting to walk through that door. And the door happened to open on that particular night. All of this is true. None of it excuses me." He did not look at his father while he spoke. He looked at the room. "My wife is not my mistake. My wife is my only excuse for the last 18 months of my life. Anyone who says otherwise in my hearing will answer to me personally. Anyone who brings an instrument against her will answer to me personally. And anyone who is currently standing at the far end of this ballroom under the impression that he has produced tonight a scandal that will undo a marriage may reflect that he has instead produced a ballroom that has watched his son tell him, in front of every family in London, that the marriage will stand. It will stand, Father. It will stand a great deal longer than you. Good evening." He took her hand. They turned together, and they walked the length of the ballroom, and every person they passed stepped back from them, and half the people they passed bowed, and the half that did not bow did not matter, because Lady Wilbury had met them at the door, and she took Sybil's free hand, and she said, to the room and to no one in particular, "I do believe my ball has only just begun. You will stay. We will stay." The old Duke did not leave the ball. He did not approach them either. He stood at his end of the ballroom for another half an hour, and Lord Braithwaite left him, and Viscount Peveril left him, and Ambrose Holloway did not so much leave as disappear. And at the end of the half hour, the old Duke was standing by himself in the corner of a room that had once been his, and a very young niece of Lady Wilbury crossed to him with a small dog in her arms and said some nonsense, and he bent to pet the dog, and the moment moved on. He called at Hawthorne House 3 weeks later. He did not apologize. He did not restore the inheritance of Marchwood. He sat in the second drawing room for 11 minutes. He accepted a cup of tea from Sybil's hand, which he drank slowly, and on his way to the door, he said, "Your Grace, I do not like to have been wrong. I dislike it more than anything else of which I am capable. I am, however, occasionally capable of it. Your Grace. Thursday next, my wife and I are at home. You will come. His Grace, your husband, will come. You will bring your mother-in-law and your own mother, if she can travel. We shall have a dinner. It will be brief. It will not, I think, be warm. It will be a dinner. I hope you will accept. We shall accept. Good afternoon, Duchess." It was not restoration. It was not forgiveness. It was a man old enough to know what pride had cost him, and unwilling to live without doing a small thing to repair it. It was enough for a first Thursday. It was November when he asked her again. The library fire had been built high because the house was cold. She had been reading. He had come in from the front steps with his coat still on, and he had shut the door behind him, and he had sat on the long sofa where, now 8 months before, she had told him to burn a letter. Sybil. Yes. The marriage at St. Martin's wasn't a marriage. She put her book down. Was it not? It was a rescue. It was a good one. I am grateful for it. But it wasn't the thing a marriage is meant to be. I have wanted, for some months, to ask you the question that should have been asked. And I have not asked because I was uncertain I had the right. I think I have the right now. Ask. He came down from the sofa onto one knee. He did not reach for her hand. He held his own hand still at his sides, as a man holds his hands when he does not wish to presume. Sybil Marchmont, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? I already am your wife. Not properly. I have felt very properly married for the last 8 months. Then tell me so, on this occasion, in this room, with no Viscount's wager, with no letter from my father, with no dare, in a quiet November evening, with a fire, with nothing at all. Tell me so. She went down to the carpet. She put her hands on either side of his face. Yes, she said, for the second time, and for the first. 2 years later, she stood in the entrance hall of Marchwood, watching a light snow that had begun an hour before, and she was thinking about a pillar in a ballroom. Marchwood had come back to them. The old Duke had died in the spring, and the estate had not come with the title, because the old Duke had arranged otherwise. But Gresham had purchased it with his mother's portion, and a loan Ormond had helped to secure, and it was theirs. It was cold. It needed new roofs in 3 places. It was theirs. Gresham came down the stairs behind her. Wool gathering. Remembering. Remembering what? The 3rd pillar from the left at Lady Wilbury's ball. He put his arms around her from behind. He rested his chin on the crown of her head. I have thought about that pillar. Have you? I have thought on occasion that if Peveril had dared me on a different evening, I should not have walked through any door, and I should have married Lady Philippa Braithwaite, and you would have married Lord Dinwiddie out of charity, and we should both have been, at this very moment, in different houses, wishing we were anywhere else. Do you believe that? I believe it on my worst days. On my better days, I believe that I should have found you anyway, because I had been failing to find you for 3 years, and I was beginning to improve at it. She turned in his arms. Gresham. Yes. Do you remember the morning you asked me if it was true? I remember every word of it. Was I a mistake? Do not ask me that. You know the answer. I want to hear it. You were the only choice I have ever made in my life that I made without hesitating. You were the one decision of mine that has not, in any hour of any day of the last 2 years, required revising. By the morning, I asked you in the breakfast room whether it was true. You were already the only thing in me that was not a mistake. Gresham. Yes, thank you. He kissed her. Outside, the snow thickened. From the long drawing room behind them, a chord of laughter rose. Hester was there, and Ormond, and the Dowager, and 2 of the Marchmont cousins, and the old rector from Crewkerne, and Lady Wilbury, who had driven up the day before. It was a small party. It would be written about in no broadsheet the following morning, and Sybil, standing in the entrance hall with her husband's arms around her, found that she was grateful for it. They had not been a mistake. By the dawn of the morning after their wedding, London had whispered that they were a disaster. By the evening of their first ball, London had whispered that they were a scandal. By the end of the week, London had whispered that they were a surprise. And by the end of the season, London, which had never intended to, had begun to envy them. A marriage that had begun as a wager had become, improbably, and then inevitably, the match against which the ton quietly measured every other match for the rest of that year, and the year that followed, and for the rest of her life. A dare, it turned out, was a door. What one did with the door was a choice, and some choices, made without hesitation, and kept without condition, were large enough to forgive the doors through which one had walked to make them. And so ends the matter of Gresham and Sybil Carrington, Duke and Duchess of Hawthorne, who were married first by a wager, then by an understanding, and at last, on a November evening by a library fire, by the quiet vow they should always have been permitted. If their story has kept you company and held you to the final word, the best favor you can pay us is to remain. A subscription costs nothing. The small bell by the subscribe button will tell you when the next story is ready. There are many stories still to come. Some will begin with a storm. This one began with a dare. Whichever brings the next listener, we shall be waiting, with a fire lit and a library door already open.